All right, yesterday we briefly talked about this, a letter from 21 state attorneys general to President Biden over radical new sweeping guidance coming from the EEOC and the Department of Education. The letter says the EEOC and the Department of Education chose to disregard the rule of law, and they're undermining their own authority with what they're trying to advance. Joining me now to talk about this, one of the attorneys general, Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. General Rutledge, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. Always a pleasure to be on with you.
Well, I appreciate the fact that there are so many. I mean, we're closing in on 24 states attorneys general that are taking a stand against the Biden administration on a host of things. But this one in particular, this flows from from guidance coming out of these two agencies that far exceed their authority, that impose a transgender policy on both businesses and schools. Tell our listeners why you're concerned about this and what you're hoping this letter accomplishes.
Well, certainly, Tony. And time and again, we have already seen the Biden administration in the first 6 months exceeding its authority. It's sort of the Obama-Biden, 2.0 in terms of exceeding the authority. And what the Biden administration did here with regard to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and Department of Ed was essentially misinterpret intentionally and expand the Bostock decision and illegally circumvent the procedural rulemaking process to essentially make a protected class. And that's what we have worried about with regard to this administration. We saw it in the Obama administration, and that's what these 21 attorneys general from across the country, led by Tennessee Attorney General, that's what we've been worried about. And anytime we have a federal administration exceeding its authority, going over states' rights, or circumventing Congress, then we're going to step in and call halt to it, and that's what we've done here in this letter. And if need be, we will look at litigation.
Now, the two primary aspects that you raise in the letter regarding this technical assistance document that is coming from these two agencies is one states that employers may not deny an employee equal access to a bathroom, locker room, or shower that corresponds to the employee's gender identity. Now, the Bostock case only dealt with the issue of employment and termination of the employment. The court did not go any further than that. So as you pointed out, they're expanding this, and the court decision in Bostock only dealt with Title VII, which is employment law, did not even touch the issue of Title IX, which is education. And so they're seeking to apply this court decision to education when it comes to women's sports and restrooms and bathrooms. I mean, how did they get away with this?
Well, hopefully they're not going to get away with this. And they put it in this, innocuous sounding, it's just a technical letter. Well, it's not a technical letter when you are at that place of employment and someone identifies, a male identifies as a female, and you are using the gender that you were born with, and you're in a female restroom, or maybe young girls are in there, then these women and these young girls should not have to share a restroom with someone who is identifying as a male for the day. The same thing with the sports that we've seen, on education, right. As you mentioned, Title IX. We passed a couple of laws in Arkansas dealing with this, preventing biological males from playing in all-female sports. But the Biden administration is essentially circumventing the rulemaking process by sending out this letter just as, again, I keep going back. I mean, it's the same thing that we've seen, but much more aggressively, but that we dealt with during the Obama-Biden administration with regard to, the so-called, bathroom bills that we saw across the country. Because again, the administration then circumvented the rules, and it was the attorneys general from across the country notably the Republican attorneys general who stood up for states' rights and stood up against the overreach.
Very quickly, final question for you, General Rutledge. If a business in your state or a school is challenged by the Biden administration based upon this guidance, would you then be able to step in to defend the citizens of your state?
Well, we might be, with regard to the schools and working with the Arkansas Department of Education, and with regard to private businesses, certainly if it had to do with any sort of state law or funding issues, that we would look into that. But right now, our goal is to stop the Biden administration circumventing the rulemaking process, and so that way Congress does have a say-so. And we're blessed in Arkansas to have 6 incredible members of Congress, but right now, again, they've just gone around the rulemaking, so that way these comments that they published for EEOC and Department of Education didn't have any public input, comment, hearing period, or meeting. So the public should be upset about this.
Right.
Not just people who disagree with the idea, but the public as a whole should be upset that they're shoving this kind of major policy change down the throats of American businesses and schools without any sort of public input.
Well, we're certainly grateful that we have so many attorneys general at the state level that are stepping in the gap here to defend the citizens of this country against the overreach of the federal government. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to fight. General Rutledge, thanks so much for joining us today. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you, Tony. God bless you.
All right, it's Attorney